I think I've already said welcome several times, but I will start off by welcoming everybody to this session that we've got this afternoon with Annabelle. I'm always delighted to see so many of you, and we have a real treat in store this afternoon because let me just tell you a little bit about the sort of history that I have with Annabelle. She was one of the wonderfully kind people who, in the very early stages of Look Fabulous Forever, offered to do me a makeover party at her house. And this was when I was, my business model was to sell direct to people, because I hadn't really reckoned with the power of the internet at that point. And I was invited to her amazing house, which is on the banks of the River Thames in Henley. And she's going to tell you a little bit about that because it's proving challenging right at this moment. Anyway, I went on to her house and she had about 25, 30 people there. And we had an amazing evening. I actually made up her partner, Grace, and then afterwards, obviously talked about the makeup, and afterwards had lots and lots of interest in it. And so it was a wonderful way for me to launch my business in a way. And she was very, very helpful and supportive at that stage. And we've kept in touch ever since, because for both of us, we've seen a great flourishing of our internet connections, and it's been amazing. So I'm going to start off by welcoming you, Annabelle, obviously, and perhaps you'd like to tell us, I mean, for a start, just to reassure us you haven't got water lapping around your ankles, and tell us a little bit about that challenge. But then what I really want to know is how you came to start your very successful online magazine. So do tell us.
Oh, thank you, Tricia. It's lovely to be here, and welcome to everybody that's joined us. Well, right now, yes, it is a bit challenging because the Thames has broken its banks, and I'm sure this is the case with many rivers in the UK. But we're pretty used to it, and we have a system, and we spring into action as soon as it starts to do this. We've got signs. A little pond appears in the middle of our lawn, and ducks start to swim on it, which confuses our dogs, and then we know this is it. So far, it's not quite there, and I'm praying that we had a lovely sunny day today. And I have to say, when it's sunny, it is the most beautiful spot. But there have been times when the swans and ducks are swimming right up to our front door. In actual fact, one time the swans came into our house because I had the door open, because I think they thought it was a bit nicer and warmer and drier in there, and they might like to nest there. So yes, it is lovely. Anyway, on to Annabel and Grace magazine. Well, how did it start? Grace and I, Grace is on, I can see her, well, I did see her at the beginning. We are a group of friends. We used to meet back in the days when people used to meet up and sort of have coffee and chat as like women do. And then we gradually, all of us sort of dispersed and moved out of London to the country. And one of our friends was moving out to the country, and she was very nervous of it. She didn't want to. The reasons she was moving were not of her choice. And we would sort of wrote to her sort of emails to encourage her to do it and say, it's not that bad. And you don't just wear green wellies and Barber jackets, there's a lot of fun to be had. And somebody saw these things and suggested that these sort of notes to each other, that they were quite fun and amusing, and why didn't we start a blog? And this was 11 years ago, and a blog was quite a new thing. And we partly did it to sort of prove to our children that we weren't technologically backward and that we could handle it. I mean, 11 years ago is, there wasn't much social media. It was really quite a new thing, and particularly for our age. Our age group, so then it was women over 50. They didn't even have mobile phones, or many of them didn't. So this rolled sort of like a snowball, gathering snow, and it's got bigger and bigger. And we discovered a community out there, people who related to us, and we were approached by companies to review products that would suit this market. For instance, your wonderful makeup. And we started to put up recipes not recipes that we had invented, but from other chefs, but maybe we'd tweaked or done a shortcut or something like that. But just saying that we tried it, tasted it, and it was wonderful. It's a very popular section. And so that's how it all really morphed. And then social media came on board, and that was a whole new thing to learn. And so it's been a a wonderful ride. I mean, Grace is really good at all the technological stuff. She works very hard with the web designer who at the back end of our website. And as you know, Tricia, there's lots of things that can go wrong, can't they? Yeah, it's been fun. I've liked meeting all the people. And we now have a very strong readership, much as I'm sure you have a very strong following of like-minded people who want to hear what books we're reading, why we're reading them, what makeup or skincare we're using. Or now we have a lot of other guest writers, guest bloggers who come on, who tell us their story. We just had one this week, a lady whose son believed in the COVID conspiracy theories, and she feels she's lost him and she can't communicate with him. And that was a very sad, poignant story, but a lot of our readers related to that. They understood it. They've had other situations, similar situations. And then we have people like the founder of Age Space, which is an online website for people looking after elderly relatives, sort of information site. And she, Annabel James, she has written a post about caring for somebody at home with COVID, because there isn't actually, believe it or not, a lot on the internet about that. And she was actually doing it from experience, because as she was writing it, she was nursing her father in Dorset who had COVID, and I'm happy to say is on the mend. So we then have hilarious ones from somebody like Backpacking Granny. She's not doing much backpacking at the moment, but she's 77. And she's somebody that is not put off by age. She just reckons, she can still go anywhere, do everything. And she does. She visited gorillas, she walked the Cameo Way, she's done so many wonderful things. And she writes about it and shows that these things can be done. And she goes with a female friend because she's single. We sometimes next week actually, we've got Jane Gordon, the journalist, she's writes for the Telegraph, for Stella magazine, for the Daily Mail. And she's writing about how she was dreading her birthday in lockdown, but actually it turned out to be a wonderful day, for completely different to any other birthday. So we share those stories, which creates what I hope people will see as the type of website we are. And I think that's it, really.
Okay, well, that's a lovely overview of what you have, what you offer, and I'd like to go back a bit, really, because I think you make it sound quite easy, and I'm sure that over the last 11 years, there's been a huge kind of evolution of the whole thing. And as you say, right, when you actually started, you were starting at a time when, especially for our age group, the whole idea of communicating via the internet was probably, well, it wasn't commonplace, not in the way that it is now. So when you started, I think you started and you called yourselves Country Wives. That's how I first knew you. That was your initial incarnation. Yes. And the focus there, as you say, it seemed to be quite a lot on, we do live in the country, but it doesn't have to be this, that, or the other, mud and dogs and wellies. It can be something, a bit more sophisticated than that, in a way. Yes. That was your message. But so when you actually wrote your blog, what was your initial experience of promoting it? How did you get the word out about it?
Well, a lot of it just happened because people would read it and they would share it with their friends, and that has continued to this day. But I guess we won an award for, it's called Social Influencers, the best social influencers for women over 50. I don't like that word influencer, because I don't like the thought of influencing people, I think, but we won that, which we were, really chuffed to win it and very surprised. And that really sort of took us on to another level. We've had quite a bit of press about us. I think the print media are a bit wary of us because we changed, as you say, from Country Wives to Annabel and Grace because we felt the name Country Wives was a little bit exclusive, because we weren't just about living in the country, and we weren't just about being married. But I think that the print media was nervous of us, but we were one of the first to do this whole thing of having an online magazine saying, you know, you can read something online. I think with the invention of the iPad and everything, I now notice when I go on holiday, a lot of people taking an iPad and reading books, newspapers, magazines. I think that has really, really helped. And of course, social media. I mean, you know, back in the day, it was just Facebook, wasn't it? And then Twitter, or was it Twitter first and Facebook? But Facebook, which many women of my age joined, though I think it was only so that we could check up on our children to see what they were doing, stalk them. But now I think the young have moved away from Facebook, and we're still there quite a bit. But Instagram then came along, didn't it? Instagram's a lovely social media platform because it's a very positive. You don't get abused on Instagram. I don't know why that is, but you know, Twitter is great. It's more chatty maybe, but I'm always a little bit sort of nervous of it. I have to think very carefully before I press that, you know, send. So social media has really helped it a lot, but word of mouth. I mean, you know, and, you know, doing things with people like yourselves, you know, Kettlewell Colours, Hope Fashion, Windsor, London, M&M, all those fashion brands, you know, showing our readers that you can, even though they may use young size 8, 10 models, that you actually can look good in some of their stuff when you're older and maybe not a classic size, you know, because we change shape, don't we, as we get older? Yeah. We don't just, you know, everything about us changes shape, and we might not want to expose our arms because we might not like the tops of our arms, we might not like our knees, whatever. So we show all of that. So I think it was brands started to see that that it was possible to show things on real women and not lose sales. Does that make sense? And I notice now lots of them do use much older models, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, definitely pioneering in that sense, and it does make these brands wake up to the fact that if they show their fashions on older women, it's actually a plus, not a minus. You know, they've always thought of it as being a taint for their brand if they were associated with older women, and of course that's not true at all. So very interested to hear that, you know, the way that it over time has developed thanks to the social media and so on and so forth, and being able to get the message out there. It's a completely free, I want to stress this, it's a completely free magazine. I've actually always loved magazines. I can remember when my mum used to get regularly, she would get things like Woman and Woman's Own, and you know, she didn't tend to buy the glossies, she would buy the weekly ones, but I loved them. And you know, and have always looked forward to magazines and being able to buy them. But what's interesting with what you're offering is it is, because it's online, it's free. You can, and as you said to me this morning, very importantly, it's always there. So you've got this massive back catalogue, and so if you want to research something on your website, you can always see whatever has been posted. And that's a huge advantage over, you know, print media, which you have, and then maybe you keep a few of them for a while and then you throw them away and they're gone, and it's, oh, where was that article? So it's a huge advantage. Let's talk a little bit more about how you find contributors, because I'm interested in that as well. So how did Backpacking Granny come to you?
Well, she's a friend, and she's just somebody that is just so full of life and fun. You've done a makeover with her, haven't you? So you know her too. It just seemed to me that we were the generation that weren't going to slip into old age quietly, that we were a generation that actually wanted to embrace being post 50 or 60 or 70, and we weren't looking for, it wasn't the end of the line for us. It was actually, we'd done what we wanted to do, whether we'd had a family or a career or even both, and we'd done all those things, and hopefully our children was left the nest and was successful. And so you know, back at my parents' day, I mean, you know, I can imagine, I remember my mother at sort of would have been sitting down having after lunch. She could never understand how we were always so busy, and she'd be after lunch sitting down, reading the newspaper, having a cup of coffee and having a bit of a doze when she was my age. And yet, you know, it's changed so much. So backpacking granny, just for me, seemed like she epitomized that person, that she wasn't put off by, you know, she always found a way around any hurdle that was, you know. And so we very much, I mean, we very much encourage people to contact us if they've got a story to tell. They may just have one post that they want to write. They may want to contribute regularly. We've got a lady called Annabelle. She writes for us very funny things about living up on the borders. Leslie Ann Green, she is a psychotherapist, and she used to, all during the last lockdown, she wrote sort of uplifting posts about, you know, things you could do to make yourself healthier, feel better. And recently she's written a great one about moving to the country, because that's a topic a lot of people are thinking of. So she's put it realistic article about what she believes it's really about moving to the country, that it's not as easy as people think. And so these people tend to come to us. But, you know, I mean, amongst our friends, I mean, we've got a wonderful book reviewer. She's called The Page Turner, Jane Trotman, and she writes for us because she's an avid reader. And I think people want to know, because she's again our sort of age, people want to know, does that book appeal? Would it appeal to me? They don't want a review written by a 20 or 30 something, and they're not sure, you know, that's a great review, but might not appeal to them, might it? So, you know, so her word counts, I think. And so, yeah, I don't think we've ever actually gone out there. I can't remember if we've ever gone out there. We've got a male. We've got one man who follows us. It's quite funny, actually. We call him Northern Mail, Martin he is. And he writes for us. He's a great writer. He's a part-time policeman. So he's semi-retired now. And the reason being was, I was listening to some program on the radio, and it said that 40% of the listeners to Women's Hour are male. So that sort of quite surprised me. And Martin came to us because he wanted to say how he sees things from a male perspective. You know, he's written some quite, I mean, he's really exposed himself, and the posts have been taken very well. We've worried about it. He even wrote one post about a particular sexual problem he had. And I think he's very brave. And I think a lot of people out there, you know, they say, don't they, that everybody's got one book in them. Well, I certainly think everybody's got one post in them. So we do welcome people to, if they want to just get something out there, it helps. Don't you think that when you write, it's like when you write a letter, it just getting it out there, that emotion or whatever, anger. I mean, I don't think you should always send them. I think you should put them in the bottom drawer. I always say about writing a letter, if you're angry, put it in the bottom drawer and read it the next day and then decide if you want to send it. But it does, writing just does release some emotion. So I think people enjoy it. Well, I hope they do. We don't bully them, don't worry, Tricia.
No, I'm sure you don't, and that's, I find that really fascinating, that you are very open. You're open to contributions. You want to read different perspectives on life. In fact, I read the Northern Mail one that came in. I got your magazine on Saturday and had a look, and I did read the one by the Northern Mail, which was actually about the joys of horticulture and gardening, and how uplifting that can be in lockdown. And I agree with you, he's a very good writer. So I think that's good to hear, and really interesting. What would you say your most popular items are? You probably be able to track this through your analytics on the back
yeah, of course. I mean, fashion is always popular, and cosmetics, well-being, that section, well-being is always popular. Recipes are, you know, hugely popular. I mean, I think that people more and more use recipes online. You know, they Google, don't they? So our recipes are very popular. I can't think. I mean, I think everything has its place. I mean, we fine-tuned it a lot. Obviously, our travel section's a bit quiet at the moment, naturally. But I mean, it just, you know, it sort of from week to week, it will often surprise us which post has captured the imagination. Grace is brilliant at writing. She was a copywriter before all of this in her previous life, and she's brilliant at writing a headline that will draw people in. And so, yeah, I think they all are popular, but definitely I think fashion probably is the most popular.
Yeah, I'm not surprised you say that, because whenever we do anything about fashion, we get inundated, you know, with response to it. And I think it's a very, very big indictment of the fashion industry that they starve us of images and information and help for how to look stylish and fashionable when you're older. You know, by not showing, as you say, they show it on stick thin 20-year-olds. Yeah. And in fact, if you look at magazines like Woman and Home and the other ones that are very definitely targeted at our age group, they very rarely use older models, which drives me nuts. It's like they must know who their target market is, and yet they will still show all their fashion on 20, 30-year-olds, you know, skinny ones that...
And skincare. I mean, all of them use, I mean, it's, you know, you look at this young girl and you think, well, okay, she's got no wrinkles, so of course the eye cream or the whatever will work, won't it? Because she's got nothing, it hasn't got a job to do. I mean, and I always say, I've got 2 daughters aged 29 and 30. I wouldn't ask them for skincare advice because they wouldn't understand mature skin. So, you know, so I think that skincare companies could think about using older people and not worrying. I mean, we all, this whole thing about aging, I'm very, you know, we don't like this word, you know, anti-aging. No, you know, we're all getting older, but we just got to make the most of it. I mean, you are the, you know, you're my icon in that, because you really have, you know, I mean, I'm not going to reveal your age. I guess most people know your age anyway, but, you know, you're fantastic at making the most of what you've got and not being worried that you are at the age you are and you still look fabulous.
I feel it's a badge of honor to be very clear. My mother had a friend who never told her age to anyone. You know, it was part of that, you know, it's almost like a dirty little secret. And she was this is a terrible story, actually. I don't know why I started it. She was tragically killed in a car accident, this friend of my mother's. And my mother then discovered through the inquest that she was in her 80s. And my mother thought that she was, you know, late 60s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, think about that she was an amazing looking woman who looked years younger than she was. And she was ashamed of being older to the extent that she wouldn't say how old she was. Hopefully we as a generation have got over that. Yes. You know, we don't do that stuff anymore because you know, what's to apologize for? The whole point is that, you know, it's as you say, it's a natural process. What do you think the biggest challenge has been of lockdown for a lot of people? Have you got feedback from your subscribers? And
yeah, I think I definitely think this last lockdown has been much harder, even though there's, you know, there is the vaccine and light at the end of the tunnel. But I think the first lockdown, obviously, because it was spring and beautiful, we were lucky enough to have wonderful weather. This one has really got to people. I really do. I think it's got to the stage where they don't mind saying that they're fed up. And, you know, and you feel bad about saying you're fed up because you're so lucky. You know, I'm so lucky. I live in a lovely house. I haven't had COVID yet. Some of my children have had COVID. They've got through it. And there are people all over the world that are really, truly suffering. And so I think that it's taken a while. You know what the British are like. We never express our emotions, do we? And I think it's been hard for people to say, actually, they're lonely. And, you know, I mean, I think grandmothers or grandparents missing their grandchildren has been huge. That has really hit home to us. I mean, neither Grace nor I have grandchildren, but we can totally understand it, you know. you know, we've got great nieces, great nephews, things like that, and we haven't seen them, and they grow up so fast, and you feel you're missing that moment in time because it's all over so quickly. But so I think it's sort of loneliness, missing special people, just having that ability to pop out. And, you know, having said that, I think there have been many positives about lockdown. As you said earlier, embracing technology, learning to communicate with people. A lot of our age group were not, were slightly intimidated by the internet and buying anything online, or you know, I mean, a Zoom call was, you know, out of the question. WhatsApps, a lot of them didn't, I mean, they may have done WhatsApp messages, but they didn't know about WhatsApp video and so on. So I think that people have learned to communicate a lot more. And I think people have learned to understand all the different things, emotions that people are going through. You know, I just think, I mean, Maggie McMillan, she contributes to our website. She was meant to join us today. She's driving to Hull. Her father, I think, is 100, but he's now got COVID, and it's clearly, she's had the call, it's the end of his life. But I think she's been up there in the past to see him and not being able to touch. I think that human contact is something that we all really need, don't we? And I think Absolutely. A lot of you are missing that, particularly if you live on your own. You know,
yeah, I think you've summarised it perfectly there. That this, in fact, we were discussing this morning. If I hadn't been doing what I've been doing in the first lockdown and the second lockdown, and the fact that it's opened up this communication that I've been able to have with all the people that, you know, those people that follow these Zoom calls and everything, I don't know where I'd be. I think I would have been slowly going around the bend, actually, Annabelle. I mean, I really would, because, you know, I say this quite a lot, but as you know, it's true for a lot of people who are in on this call. I live alone. Last week, I didn't go out. I went out for my vaccination. I got my jab last Saturday. I did not go out of my house for 7 days. Now, I was busy,
yeah,
but I realized that I had to go out. You know, I've got to get out of my house. I was going slowly bonkers. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not bored. I don't get bored. But at the same time, I need proper social contact with people. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm in a bubble with my daughter, and I popped around to see her on Saturday afternoon, and we had a cup of tea, and that was absolutely lovely. Saw my grandsons. We don't touch, but, you know, I saw them. And you're so right, this sense of isolation. So thank goodness we've been able to Zoom. Thank goodness we've been able to keep some level of social contact. I just noticed something happening in the comments, that Captain Sir Tom Moore has died.
Oh.
So I think we can all, a collective, terrifically sad sense of loss there for a very lovely man. And
very special man. But and it's a special generation, isn't it? That generation.
Very, very special indeed. And, you know, we can all spend a moment with him in our thoughts, and to give thanks for what he did, because he did something really quite spectacular and special. So it's extremely sad, and ironic that, you know, he's died in that way. I think he was ill with pneumonia.
Yeah, I think he had.
Yeah. So it's a sad thing, but I saw it and I just thought I would acknowledge that somebody had mentioned it. And you're talking about a friend who's gone up to spend time with her dad. And I think that's the other thing with COVID, is that where people have lost those nearest and dearest to them, that they haven't been able to have those rites of passage that we expect when it comes time to say goodbye. And that in itself is dreadful, you know, absolutely dreadful. Anyway, that's a sad note on which to draw this conversation to a close. So we're going to Bryony now. Have you got some questions there, Bryony?
Yes, we've had lots of questions come through in the chat, and we also had people submit some in advance. So I'll get through as many as I can. Annabelle, what element of running the magazine do you like best?
Well, I really enjoy the writing now. I found it hard in the beginning, but now I find it much easier. meeting all the different people out there that are running small brands, women like myself and Grace and Tricia and Naina McIntosh, who I think we've had on, haven't you?
Yeah.
Hope, and Melissa from Kettlewell Colours. I mean, meeting all those people is fun, and I've made some really good friends. But probably the bit I really actually enjoy is the comment section, when people take the time to write a comment or email into us or anything to answer those. I find that, and just hearing about other people and, you know, seeing what their response to us, and you know, I like that. Yeah,
I know that Tricia absolutely loves reading all of the comments that we get on the blog post every Sunday as well. What in life past the age of 60 really excites you?
Well, I just think that because we're probably, COVID aside, a fitter generation than the generation before. I mean, I'm now doing yoga. We have a lovely lady, Yoga with Maddie, who's put some things on our website for us, and I do classes with her 3-4 times a week. I never had the time to do all that. I had 4 children and I didn't have the time to exercise. So to be able to keep fit, there's so much now out there to help you to keep fit, to keep healthy, to travel. Well, it's so hard, isn't it? Because, you know, I would have said before lockdown, you know, now that my children have left home, to be able to travel, do all those things. But of course, things are different now. So it's difficult to say. But I think the fact that life, sort of for me, it's like, this is a new chapter after 60. There's so much we can do. We're so lucky to live in this time, apart from COVID, obviously.
Of course. Jane wants to know, do you think that the future of magazines is going to be online, with sort of print magazines sometimes having to be sent to print sometimes 3 months in advance? It feels much fresher, the content that's on your website. Do you feel like the future is online magazines?
I definitely think so. I think the ability that reading them online, that you can, you know, that we'll put a link for, if something, we mention something, we put a link that takes you just click on it, goes straight through, and you can buy it there and then. Whereas what you do reading a magazine, as Trish said, you've got to either store them, keep them, then you forget what you saw it in, and as this is an instant thing. I think that with all the women I was in the breakout room with, they were all saying they love reading on an iPad. It's well lit, and it's just so much easier, isn't it? And you can save articles, and you can, you know. So yeah, I can't see, and I also think COVID again, that, you know, magazines and dentists waiting, well, they'd already gone, hadn't they, really? And in hairdressers, I think it's all, you know, that's where I used to read them. They're so expensive too, aren't they? I mean, you know, so yeah, I think it has to be online, I'm afraid. Good for us, though.
Yeah, very good. A couple of questions that were very similar. Lots of people wanting to know, were you in publishing before the magazine, or did you have a career before? And if so, what was it that you did?
Oh, Lord. Well, as I said, Grace was a very successful copywriter and worked in all that side of things, advertising thing. I came from a very strong fashion background. I worked for Dave and Elizabeth Emanuel, and various other, Caroline Charles, I did think was a consultant for. So I worked in fashion PR before I worked for David and Elizabeth. So I came from a strong fashion background, always been interested in it. But writing was really new to me. I think we when we started, you sort of forget, we've forgotten how to write now in a funny sort of way, because we're all doing text and things. And so actually I've enjoyed being able to sit down and actually write something. So, and I know how people appreciate receiving a written letter. So yeah, so that's nothing to do with publishing. So never, but as a PR, yes, I guess I knew about getting stuff into papers and magazines.
Yeah. And just one final question from Sarah. And she said that health is so important as you get older. And she loves that Tricia concentrates not just on makeup, but also on a functioning body. Does Annabelle and Grace, does your magazine put emphasis on quality aging?
Yes, absolutely. We're very strong on that. As I said, we have the skin specialist. She writes about skincare, but not about the products, just looking after. And we did a huge, very popular thing about gut health. In actual fact, it came through my yoga teacher, Maddie, and we did a whole thing about the microbiome, gut health, taking vitamin D. And it was funny because it was sort of, we were slightly ahead of the curve. And then it all became, then the Daily Mail ran a thing about how important having your gut, keeping your gut healthy, everything from mental health, from, you know, physical, you know, your hair, your nails, your skin, all of these things. And, you know, I learned something fascinating from the skin specialist, that when we take supplements and everything, the skin, which is, you know, our biggest organ, gets the last bit of the supplement. So if every other part of your body is grabbing the supplement, so to speak, in a very basic way, I'm telling you this, the skin suffers. So yeah, so no, health is really important. We've done lots and lots of pieces. A chap who did a book about doing where you sit on your chair and you do your exercise sitting on a, you know, like a dining room chair or desk chair, and all the different movements you should do, all of those sort of things. So nothing, you know, we're not suggesting you all go off and do something, you know, go out and, I don't know, train to climb Everest or something like that. It's practical but helpful.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you. I'll hand back to Tricia now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just wrap up. I just want to remind everybody that for the programme for the rest of the week, tomorrow I'm talking to Leonie, and apropos what we've just Annabelle has just been saying. So tomorrow Leonie shows us a really healthy, she calls them tuna bites, and she's also made making a delicious chicken curry, which I'm definitely going to have a go at, with broccoli in it. And what else was in it? Broccoli. What else did she put in it?
Peppers, lots of coconut milk. It was almost like a Thai curry.
Yeah, it looked delicious. So I've kind of promised her that I'm going to have a go at that myself this week, just to see if I can make it. As you know, I'm not a very good cook. And Thursday, Lindsay and I are going to do a cardio workout, show you that one. I know you've been loving what we've been doing up till now. And on Friday, we're discussing the film All Is True with Judi Dench and Kenneth Branagh. So that's our programme for the rest of the week for bright spots. And today's bright spot has been a very bright spot. Annabelle, you are the epitome of bright, a bright spot. So thank you so much. It's been a delight to talk to you.
Oh, it's been lovely to meet all these people. It's been fantastic.
Good. And I'm sure you'll get lots and lots of subscribers for your wonderful, remember, totally free magazine, which is jam-packed with all sorts of goodies. So something to look forward to there. So thanks a lot, and thank you all for coming. You know, delighted to have your company yet again, and I shall look forward to seeing you all during the rest of the week. So bye-bye, and thank you again, Annabelle. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tricia. Bye-bye.